I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, the fog blurring the glass but unable to hide her swollen silhouette. 32 years old, 1 meter 58 tall, weighing 160 Jean, the reflection looked like a bloated dough. I reached out to wipe the steam off the mirror. The face that my college classmates once called Little Sweet Brittany now only showed puffy eye bags and drooping corners of the mouth. My husband despises me and we sleep in separate beds. What broke me the most was when my son said, "You're so ugly, don't come pick me up from school anymore." My classmates all laugh at me. I decided, I have to change. Mom, where's my school uniform? My son George's voice came from the bedroom, accompanied by impatient stomping. On the second shelf of the wardrobe, I ironed and put your clothes neatly yesterday, but you always mess them up. 8-year-old George interrupted her, his voice full of disdain. Other kids' moms in our class always put the school uniforms by the bedside. You can't even handle such a small thing. My fingers unconsciously gripped the edge of the wash basin. Hearing such words from an 8-year-old cut deeper into my heart than a whole year of silent treatment from my husband Pelayer. I took a deep breath, wrapped my bathrobe tighter, and walked out of the bathroom. In the living room, Pelayer was sitting at the dining table scrolling through his phone, untouched breakfast in front of him, vegetable porridge and whole wheat sandwiches I had prepared at 5 in the morning. Since we started sleeping in separate rooms 2 years ago, this scene had become routine. "Pelayer, the porridge is getting cold," I whispered a reminder. Without looking up, Pelayer said, "Not hungry." Those 3 words felt like 3 ice picks stabbing into her heart. I silently turned around to help my son find his school uniform, but when I passed by the study, I heard George's voice, "Dad, why does Mom stay home all day and still can't do anything right? David's mom works and can even make him cartoon-themed lunchboxes." Pelayer's reply hit me like a blow to the back of my head, "Because your mom is useless." When my son was leaving, he said to me, "Mom, don't come pick me up from school anymore. You're so ugly that my classmates laugh at me." At that moment, I felt all the blood in my body freeze. I mechanically walked back to the bathroom, locked the door, and sat on the toilet, silently crying. The dripping sound of the water heater was like a countdown timer for me, 1 drop, 2 drops. 10 years of marriage, 8 years as a full-time housewife, I had made myself invisible. I can't go on like this anymore. I said to myself in the mirror, my voice hoarse but resolute. That night, after my husband and son had gone to sleep, I dug out a long-forgotten makeup bag. The foundation had separated, the lipstick was cracked and flaky, and the eyeshadow colors were all blended into a mess. I spent 2 hours barely managing to apply a full face of makeup with these expired products, then I pulled out a dress I bought 5 years ago. I never got to wear it back then because I had no time to go out, and now it was so tight it was almost about to burst. The flash on my phone camera lit up, and I took 3 selfies from different angles, then posted them on a women's forum with the title, 32-year-old full-time mom wants to change, seeking advice. After posting, I nervously refreshed the page, my heart pounding as if it would burst out of my chest. 20 minutes later, the first comment appeared, "Sister, can you look in the mirror before posting selfies? How can you be so bold to wear a dress with that figure?" Then came the second, third comments. "Your face is painted like a palette, it's terrifying. I suggest you be reborn." Is being a full-time mom really that impressive? I work and take care of my child and still maintain 90 Jean. My fingers began to tremble, tears blurred my vision. Just as I was about to delete the post, a unique comment popped up, "I'm touched by your desire to change." Suggestions: 1. Find a job immediately, financial independence is the first step. 2. Throw away all old clothes that don't fit. 3. Spend half an hour exercising every day, starting with brisk walking. Netizen Little Raindrop. This comment was like a ray of light in the darkness. I wiped away my tears and copied Xiaoyu's advice onto the first page of my notebook. Early the next morning, after waiting for Pelayer to leave for work and sending George off to school, I immediately took out my college diploma and accounting certificate that had been tucked away at the bottom of the box. In the photo on the certificate, the girl with a ponytail and a bright smile seemed to come from another world. Hello, I would like to apply for the cashier position. I stood at the entrance of the community supermarket, my voice barely audible. The store manager was a woman in her 40s, sizing me up. Do you have experience? I majored in accounting at university. I can do the bookkeeping. The morning shift is from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., the evening shift from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., 4 days off per month, salary 2,800 yuan. Do you want the job? I clenched the edge of my clothes. Yes. Come for a trial shift at 6 tomorrow. The store manager tossed her an apron printed with the supermarket logo, and she prepared black pants and sneakers herself. On the way home, my steps were much lighter than when I came. Passing by the community bulletin board, a job posting caught my attention: breakfast stall helper, 5 to 8 a.m., 15 yuan per hour. I did the math, and if I take this part-time job in addition to my work at the supermarket, I can earn an extra 1,350 yuan a month. 2 jobs, can I handle it? I asked myself, then immediately recalled George's disdainful look and Pelleur's words, "Your mom is useless. I have to make it work." I tore off the job posting, folded it firmly, and put it in my pocket. That night, after waiting for everyone in the house to fall asleep, I quietly set the alarm for 4 a.m. Lying in bed, I tossed and turned, both afraid I wouldn't be able to handle the job and worried about Pelleur finding out. At dawn, I barely fell asleep, feeling as if I had just closed my eyes when the alarm blared loudly. Working at the breakfast stall was harder than I had imagined. In the bitter cold of winter, I stood by the roadside helping the vendor knead dough, make buns, and fry dough sticks, my fingers quickly turning bright red from the cold. At 6:30, I hurried home to prepare breakfast and a lunchbox for my son, leaving a note: "Mom has something to do today, you go to school by yourself, be safe." At 7:50, I arrived at the supermarket out of breath, and the manager was already waiting for me with a stern face. "Late on the very first day?" "Sorry, I was going to check the expiration dates on the shelves and remove any expired products." The manager waved impatiently. For the next 8 hours, I spun around like a top, cashiering, stocking shelves, checking expiration dates, cleaning. At noon, I only had 20 minutes to eat, and I wolfed down the cold rice I brought from home before immediately returning to my post. By the time I handed over the shift at 2 in the afternoon, my back could no longer straighten, and my legs felt as heavy as if filled with lead. But when I took the trial work pass from the store manager, all my exhaustion turned into tears welling up in my eyes. "Official work starts tomorrow, don't be late." After the store manager said this, she added, "Well done." Those simple 4 words made me smile all the way home. It was the first time in 5 years that someone had acknowledged her work ability. However, this joy abruptly ended the moment I opened the door at home. Pelleur had unusually left work early, sitting on the sofa with a sullen face, a note left for his son placed in front of him. "Where did you go?" His voice was as cold as ice. My heart skipped a beat, but she didn't lower her head to admit fault as usual. "I found a job." "A job?" Pelleur suddenly stood up. "Who allowed you to work? Who will pick up George from school? Who will make dinner? George is already 8 years old and can come home by himself. Dinner, we can take turns making it." I heard my own voice trembling, but she insisted on finishing her sentence. "I need to work, I need to have my own life." Pelleur's expression was as if he had heard the biggest joke. "Your life is to serve your husband and children. Quit your job tomorrow." "No." This simple syllable jumped out of my mouth, even surprising her. Pelleur's face turned ashen. "Fine, very well, since your wings have grown strong, from today on, I won't give you a penny for household expenses." I took a deep breath. "That's perfect, from today on, we'll split the housework equally. You take Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'll take Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and we'll do Sunday together." Pelleur was stunned, clearly not expecting his usually submissive wife to fight back like this. He opened his mouth but couldn't find any words to argue, and in the end, he slammed the door shut in anger. That night, I lay on my son's small bed. The master bedroom was monopolized by Pelleur, even though he used to sleep in the guest room. To force me to admit my mistake, he wouldn't even let me sleep in the master bedroom. I was unwilling to sleep in the cold guest room. I opened my phone and found that the forum post had already received hundreds of replies. Most were still sarcastic, but a few, like Xiaoyu's, offered warm-hearted advice. Sister, keep going. It's never too late to change. Being a full-time mom is the hardest job in the world, you deserve a better life. They suggested recording daily diet and exercise, and said they would check in with me. I read each comment carefully and wrote down every useful piece of advice in my notebook. Finally, I opened Xiaoyu's profile and sent a private message. Thank you for your advice, I found 2 jobs today. Although I'm very tired, I'm happy. To my surprise, Xiaoyu replied quickly, that's great. The first step is always the hardest. Remember, change is for yourself, not to prove anything to anyone. I read this sentence over and over until tears blurred my vision again. Yes, I am not seeking Pele's approval, nor do I want my son to look down on me. I just want to find the self that was buried by marriage and life. For the next month, I was like a wound-up machine, waking up at 4 in the morning to go to the breakfast stall, rushing back home by 7:30 to prepare my son's breakfast and lunchbox. I rushed to work at the supermarket at 8 o'clock, buy groceries and cook after finishing at 3 in the afternoon, and do half an hour of yoga after the whole family has gone to bed at night. I get less than 5 hours of sleep every day, yet I feel more energetic than I have in the past 5 years. The changes are slow but real. Working at the supermarket taught me how to communicate with people. The obligatory greetings like hello and thank you for coming at the checkout gradually cured my social anxiety. The owner of the breakfast stall is warm-hearted. After learning about my situation, she often gives me a few extra buns for breakfast. Meanwhile, the daily yoga practice has unknowingly helped me lose 15 pounds. On payday, I divided my 2,800 yuan into 3 parts, 1,000 yuan saved, 1,000 yuan for household expenses, and 800 yuan as a reward for myself. I took George to the pizza buffet in the mall. Mom, how many plates can we take? George's eyes were sparkling, no longer filled with hostility towards her like a month ago. Take as many as you want, today Mom is treating. I smiled and ruffled my son's hair. This was the first time in months that I truly smiled from the heart. After the meal, I bought George a Transformer toy he had been longing for. Mom, did you buy this with the money you earned? George hugged the toy, his expression both surprised and puzzled. Yes, Mom has a job now. I crouched down to look my son in the eye. You know, Mom has to get up at 4 every day, and it's dark and cold outside. I softly spoke about the hardships of work, and George listened with wide eyes. In the end, my son suddenly hugged me. Mom, I don't want toys anymore. You should quit your job, it's too hard. My nose tingled with emotion, but she shook her head. Mom likes working, she likes the feeling of earning her own money. You have to study hard so that in the future you won't have to suffer as much as Mom does. On the way home, I bought George an ice cream, then went to a clothing store to try on a pair of jeans, 2 sizes smaller than a month ago. Standing in front of the fitting mirror, I could hardly recognize myself. My waistline appeared, my chin became sharper, and there was a sparkle in my eyes. After a month of early mornings and late nights, busy with 2 jobs, I had lost 20 jean, about 10 kilograms. Although I was still a bit overweight, I looked much better, and even my husband's attitude toward me had changed. That night, I posted a photo of my new look on the forum, a month's change at work, seeking advice. The comments this time were completely different. Oh my God. You look like a different person. Sister, you are so inspiring. I want to learn from you too. Your aura is completely different, keep it up. Xiaoyu also replied, I'm so happy to see your transformation. Next, you might consider learning a new skill. I was about to reply when suddenly the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, she saw the person she least wanted to see, her mother-in-law. Mom, why are you here? She opened the door and asked, forcing herself to stay calm. Grandma didn't answer, her gaze sweeping over me like a spotlight. Pele said you went to work? What about the house? What about George? George is already grown, he can. Can what, can what? Grandma interrupted her and walked straight into the living room. Where is my grandson? Doing homework in the room. I followed in and saw Grandma skillfully open the fridge, her brows immediately furrowing. Is this all? What's for dinner? Frozen dumplings? Is this how you're raising a child? Grandma's voice grew louder and louder. Did you read the health article I sent last time? These processed foods are all carcinogenic. I clenched my fist. Mom, I just got off work, I don't have time. Work? What good job could someone like you find? Grandma sneered. Don't tell me you're just trying to be lazy. Just then, George ran out of the room. Grandma. He excitedly threw himself into Grandma's arms, then raised the transformer in his hand. Look, Mom bought this for me. With the money she earned herself. Grandma's expression immediately stiffened. She looked at the toy, then at Emma's obviously new jeans, and finally her gaze fell on the fresh lilies on the dining table, which I had bought as a reward for myself with my first paycheck. You really went to work? Mother-in-law's tone softened, filled with disbelief. Yes, I'm working as a cashier at the community supermarket. I said calmly, but a strange sense of pleasure surged in my heart. Mother-in-law was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, What about Pelayer? Did he agree? Who will do the housework? Now that you're working, you can't just ignore the household chores. Pelayer is busy with work, you have to take good care of him. I stopped what I was doing, looked at mother-in-law and said, Mom, I'm tired from work too. Let's share the housework together from now on. The mother-in-law's expression changed. What kind of attitude is this? My son married you, not for you to live such an easy life. A surge of anger rose in my heart, but I still held back and said, Mom, times have changed. I am also working hard to contribute to this family. Let's all try to understand each other. The mother-in-law snorted. We split the expenses and take turns doing the chores. I deliberately spoke loudly so that Pelayer, who had just come in, could hear. Sure enough, Pelayer's face turned very unpleasant. The mother-in-law looked at her son, then at me, her expression complex and hard to describe. At dinner, she unusually took the initiative to help set the table and even asked me, Is work tiring? Although her tone was still stiff, this was the closest thing to a caring remark my mother-in-law had said to me in 5 years. Could it be that she was finally starting to understand me? But the next moment, she smiled and added, How much is your salary? I paused and said, I work as a supermarket cashier, the pay isn't high. She responded with an "oh," but her eyes darted around as if she was calculating something in her mind. That night, after I finished showering and was passing through the living room, I overheard my mother-in-law speaking softly to Pelayer, Since she can earn money now, have her hand over her salary to you. Don't let her spend it recklessly. Pelayer replied impatiently, How could she possibly listen to me? My mother-in-law clicked her tongue, Are you stupid? She's a woman. If she doesn't use the money to support the family, do you think she's hiding it for herself? My heart suddenly sank halfway. It turned out that she never cared about me at all, she was only after my money. Early the next morning, just as I was about to leave for work, my mother-in-law suddenly stopped me, her face beaming with a smile. Emma, now that you have a job, shouldn't you help out the family more? I looked at her warily. What do you mean? She rubbed her hands together, smiling insincerely. Pelayer's dad has been having back pain lately. The doctor said we need to buy a therapy device, it costs over $3,000. I cut her off directly. Mom, I just started working, and my salary isn't even over $3,000 yet. Her smile froze, and her eyes immediately turned cold. What, now that your wings are strong, you don't even care about the elders? I took a deep breath and tried to speak calmly. If you really need money, let Pelayer pay, his salary is higher than mine. The mother-in-law's face darkened instantly. Pelayer's money has to go towards the mortgage, unlike you, who hides all the money you earn. I was too lazy to argue with her anymore, grabbed my bag, and left. Behind me came her sharp voice, Ungrateful wretch. My son marrying you is the worst luck in 8 generations. The mother-in-law's change in attitude was not because she suddenly liked this daughter-in-law, but because she finally had value that could earn money. This realization made me both heartbroken and bitterly ironic, but more than anything, it brought me relief. It turns out that in this world, even kinship and love cannot escape the law of value exchange. That night, I wrote in my notebook, on the first day, I was scolded as a useless mother. On the 30th day, I was asked, is work tiring? Change is painful, but not changing is even more painful. Closing the notebook, I opened my mobile banking app and smiled as I saw the number grow from 0 to 1,000 before falling asleep. In my dream, she saw a slimmer, more confident version of herself reaching out to the present her. The work at the supermarket was harder than I had imagined, but I gritted my teeth and persevered. I worked extra hard, cherishing every opportunity. I wasn't afraid of hardship, never slacked off, and got along very well with my colleagues. I understood that trying to gain small advantages often leads to bigger losses. The supermarket manager was beautiful, kind-hearted, and enthusiastic. Although she was in her 40s, she looked younger than me, and I'm 34. In our free time, we would chat about fashion and makeup. I worked hard to change my image, not only to win back my family's heart but also to please myself and truly stand tall from the inside out. She saw that I was serious about my work and never lazy, and gradually began to show me more care. One day, she called me into the office and handed me a document. Our supermarket headquarters finance department is looking for an assistant. I think you're quite detail-oriented. Would you like to give it a try? I was stunned, but I am just a cashier. She smiled. Don't you have an accounting certificate? I've seen your resume. My hand trembled slightly. That accounting certificate, sealed away for years, I had almost forgotten about it myself. Double the salary, social insurance and housing fund, 9 to 5, this is the only chance, do you want it? I immediately answered, yes. The finance department's work was much easier than cashiering, but it required more focus. I left early and returned late every day, but Pelleur's attitude grew stranger. He used to ignore me, but now he started to care about my work. Is your finance department supervisor male or female? Working overtime today? With whom? How much did your salary increase? At first, I thought he had finally recognized my value. Until that day, I was working overtime at the company until 9 in the evening. When I got home, I found that Pelleur was not there. My son George said, Dad said he has a social engagement. I nodded and didn't think much of it. But when I was sorting the dirty clothes, I found a restaurant receipt in his suit pocket. Rose Couple Restaurant, set meal for 2, time was 6 o'clock this afternoon. Pelleur would never go to such a place for a social engagement. My heart sank. I quietly checked his phone. The password hadn't changed, it was still our son's birthday. On the phone, a woman saved as General Manager Dawn sent a message, had a great time today, next time bring your daughter along? Scrolling up, there were all flirtatious conversations. Miss you. Your wife won't find out, right? Don't worry, she's very stupid. My hands were shaking so much that I could barely hold my phone. It turned out, he had been cheating for a long time. That General Manager Dawn was a client of their company, divorced with a daughter. Pelleur not only dated her but also took that little girl to the amusement park. He had never taken George there before. At that moment, my heart seemed to fall into an endless ice cellar, and I was completely stunned. What hurt me the most was that I didn't even have the courage to confront him. During the days we slept in separate rooms, I doubted countless times that he had another woman, but I could never find any evidence and could only suffer in silence. I always comforted myself, thinking that even if he treated me badly, at least he was a family man. But reality was so cruel. He was unwilling to take me and the child out for a good meal, yet he could enjoy fine dining with his lover. He was reluctant to buy a decent toy for his son but remembered to buy expensive dolls for his lover's daughter. I was trembling with anger, my heart full of rage, but in the end, I still held it back. I hesitated. The house we live in now is Pelleur's premarital property, and if we divorce, I might not get anything. All these years, I have been a full-time housewife, knowing nothing about his income or savings. If we divorce, I might walk away with nothing, but what about the child? My parents' house is small and simply can't accommodate me and the child. Should I rent a place and struggle to raise the child alone? If I give up the child, Pelayer will surely live with his lover and her child, and with my son left in my mother-in-law's care, I don't know how much suffering he will endure. The child is innocent, why should he have to bear all this? I did nothing wrong, so why must I suffer this kind of betrayal? Out of helplessness, I posted this matter on an online platform and soon received all kinds of comments. The comments were polarized. Some people sympathized with me and advised me to get a divorce quickly and stop torturing myself, while others mocked me sarcastically. You should also reflect on yourself. After reading your previous posts, it's no surprise your husband cheated. Who would want to spend their life with someone like you? To be honest, not mentioning divorce is already generous of the husband. It takes two to tango. Maybe he is the true love, and you are the one who is unnecessary. These comments were like knives, cutting me all over, leaving me wounded and heartbroken to the point I could hardly breathe. But the more painful it was, the more I wanted to read them, trying to keep myself clear-headed. Looking back on the past 10 years of muddled days, I wish I could travel back in time to wake myself up. How could I have been so confused and without any plans? Xiaoyu has always been my loyal fan, and her advice is very practical. If you can endure it, just endure it for now, and reveal the truth when you have the ability. For now, treat your husband as a tool to earn money and take care of the children, maximizing the benefits. After several days of inner struggle, I decided to follow Xiaoyu's advice, maintaining a superficial marriage with Pelayer, using his resources to secure more protection for myself and the children. I calmly put the phone back without exposing him on the spot. Because I knew that once the mask was torn off, he would use our son to threaten me. I have to secure my footing first. I worked hard, learned financial software, and obtained the intermediate accounting qualification. My salary rose from 4,000 to 6,000, then to 8,000. I secretly saved money, consulted a lawyer, and gathered evidence. Finally, after half a year, I felt the time was right. I threw the evidence in front of Pelayer. Let's get a divorce. He said, I swear, I have completely cut ties with Linyu, and I will never betray you again. I want to live a good life with you. I looked at him, so earnest and sincere, feeling a mix of bitterness, sadness, and a bit of amusement. Once, I so desperately longed for my husband's love and respect, hoping my child would support me unconditionally. In these 10 years of marriage, I have argued, had heart-to-heart talks, communicated with all my heart and soul, and even thrown hysterical tantrums, all just to make them understand me. But it was all in vain. Instead, the relationship only worsened. Now I realize that only by becoming strong myself, having enough confidence, do I have the right to talk about understanding. I slightly raised the corner of my mouth and said, they say infidelity is either 0 times or countless times. How do you expect me to believe you? Pelayer hesitated for a moment and said, I really have changed. Not everyone keeps making the same mistake over and over. As long as a man has his family in his heart, he will always come back. You can just ask others. I shook my head. What you said sounds so insincere. It's hard for me to accept. So what do you think counts as sincerity? He asked anxiously. I gently touched my chin and said slowly, we've been married for so many years, and I've never managed the money. If you really want to live well, hand over your salary card, and I might consider it. Pelayer's face changed instantly, looking even worse than when I exposed his affair. You've never managed the money all these years, I don't feel at ease, he said, forcing himself to speak. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Don't joke around. I'm an accountant now, responsible for the accounts of several big companies, with daily transactions amounting to quite a lot. And you still have the nerve to say that? Pelayer bit his lip and said, I never asked you for money, but you want mine. How much do you actually earn? You haven't wasted it all, have you? Sure enough, this was his real reason for wanting to make peace. It all came down to money. I sneered, how much I earn is none of your business. Since you don't trust me, how can I trust you? Pelayer was left speechless by my retort. He pouted and then said, I heard you bought massage chairs for your parents a few days ago. I looked at him disdainfully and said nothing. Pelayer continued, there's nothing wrong with being filial to your parents, but you have to know your limits. You still have a brother and sister-in-law, it's not just about you. My dad's health has never been good. If it weren't such an inappropriate moment to laugh, I would really want to throw my head back and laugh out loud. I'd like to see just how thick-skinned you are. I looked him straight in the eye. When you ask me to give, why don't you think about what you've done for me? In these 10 years, you've spent all kinds of money on your parents, but have you ever spent a single cent on my parents? Pelayer said with full confidence, nonsense, the money I earn is mine, of course I spend it on my parents, what does that have to do with you? Hearing this, my heart skipped a beat and I became completely clear-headed. There's no need to waste words on this kind of person, he simply doesn't understand. Let's get a divorce, there's nothing more to say. I said calmly, feeling as if the whole world was about to become peaceful. Pelayer was startled, but forced himself to stay calm. Stop trying to scare me. I said calmly, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep first. Tomorrow, find some time to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Anyone who doesn't go is a coward. Pelayer was a bit flustered, his voice growing softer. Stop it, don't be mad. I know I was wrong, isn't that enough? I lay down, closed my eyes, and said, just tomorrow at noon, I have time. Let's settle this as soon as possible. Listening to Pelayer's heavy breathing beside me, I felt no ripple in my heart. It turns out that the feeling of about to be freed from bondage is so light, only the joy of regaining freedom, without a trace of entanglement or pain. He angrily slammed the table and then sneered coldly, fine, the child is mine, you leave empty-handed. I stared at him, on what grounds? On the grounds that you have no money and no house, the court will award the child to the party with better financial conditions. He laughed smugly, if you dare to fight for it, I will make sure you don't even get visitation rights. I clenched my fists, my nails digging deep into my palms. Does George know you want to take him away? Pelayer added slowly, he said just yesterday that he hated it the most when Mom was not home all day. My heart trembled sharply. I called George over and asked softly, if Mom and Dad separated, who would you want to live with? George looked down playing with his toy and casually said, with Dad. Why? I was shocked. Dad said that Mom would have a new home in the future and wouldn't want me anymore. My eyes instantly turned red. Mom will never stop wanting you. George looked up at me, his eyes unfamiliar, but you never spend time with me. Dad will take me to the amusement park, will you? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Yes, I have been working hard lately, neglecting my son. And Pelayer took advantage of this, winning the child's heart with that cheap companionship. I stood up and calmly said to Pelayer, fine, the son is yours. I will leave with nothing. He was stunned, clearly not expecting me to be so decisive. But there is one condition, I stared at him, from today on, there will be no more ties between me and you two, father and son. What do you mean? It means I won't give a single cent of child support, and don't come looking for me anymore. I sneered, didn't you want a son? Then raise him yourself. Pelayer's face changed, are you crazy? He's your own son. Yes, but now he has chosen you. I turned and went back to my room to start packing. Pelayer panicked. He thought I would cry and beg him, that I would compromise for the sake of our son. But he was wrong. Not long after I separated from Pelayer, my mother-in-law called. I heard you're getting a divorce? Do you have any conscience? The old woman started yelling at me the moment she spoke. I was stunned by her words, my ears ringing, and helplessly said, didn't Pelayer tell you about his affair? You should ask him first. My mother-in-law paused for a moment, then said with righteous confidence, which man hasn't had a little fling outside? This just shows that Pelayer cares about you. That woman works at a bank, she's young and beautiful, much better than you, and she even actively pursued Pelayer. Look at you, Pelayer hasn't even left you, yet you've been freeloading for so many years, and now that you've just earned some money, you want a divorce? Your conscience must have been eaten by dogs. I always knew her values were twisted and her words poisonous, but I never expected her to be this outrageous. She kept cursing. Let me tell you, if you want a divorce, fine, but you have to compensate for all the losses we've had over the years, pay back all the money spent, and even spit out the food you've eaten. 10 years, you. I really couldn't listen anymore, so I shouted loudly into the phone, if your brain is sick, go get it treated, you old witch. After saying that, I hung up the phone immediately. What a piece of trash. After the divorce, I rented a small apartment and threw myself wholeheartedly into work. A year later, I was promoted to finance manager, and my salary rose to $12,000. I started working out, learning makeup, and making new friends. My life kept getting better, while Pelayer, I heard, was living a complete mess. That general manager Dawn never wanted to be a stepmother and broke up with him. My mother-in-law finds taking care of the child troublesome and complains all day. George's grades have plummeted, and the teacher contacts the parents every day. One day, Pelayer suddenly appeared downstairs at my company, unshaven and looking haggard. Emma, his voice was hoarse, George misses you. I sneered, really? Wasn't it him who said he hated me back then? Pelayer awkwardly rubbed his hands, the child is still young and doesn't understand, can you please? No. I interrupted him, your matters with your son have nothing to do with me. He got desperate, how can you be so heartless? He is your son. I quietly looked at him, Pelayer, it was you who rejected me in the first place. Now, I don't want you either. After saying that, I turned and walked away, never looking back even once. Later, I heard from friends that Pelayer went around crying to people, saying I was cold-hearted and ruthless, not even caring for my own son. But so what? I am no longer the full-time housewife who could be manipulated by anyone. This time, I choose to live for myself. As for George, when he grows up, he might understand that his mother didn't abandon him, but was abandoned by them first. But by then, I no longer care. Because I have finally learned that loving myself is more important than pleasing the whole world.